So I want to talk about influences. Do we as people, and then in second place as Jews, have to worry about influences? A lot of people feel that if you're not doing anything wrong, saying anything wrong, then nothing wrong could happen. So I'm going to take you through a journey. Take my leg out of this thing here. I'll take you through a journey, and you be the judge whether influences are actually real, if they actually affect our everyday life or not. Good? Okay, agreed. So let's start from the beginning. This week we're going to start Parashat Bereshit, Genesis, the first book of the Bible, and the first chapter, Bereshit, when God created the world. God creates the world, all the animals, the entire earth, everything in it, vegetation, trees, water, heavens, earth, stars, galaxies. You could argue about creation or whether it was the Big Bang or whatever it is, that we could do another lecture on. But we're just going to go with the Bible theory, right? Not the theory, the Bible. Then God creates Adam. Adam Arishon, the first man. Adam. Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are created. But there's something different within Adam Arishon and Eve that we have today they did not have then. Care to tell me what that was?
Free will.
Free will. You cannot be wronger. How could you even possibly think that Adam did not have free will? The fact that he actually ate from the tree tells us he had free will. I won't name your name here. Kidding. No, it was not free will. It was not free will. I could see how someone could say, possibly, he did not have free will, but he did. Right, okay. All right, so two things. Two things, as far as I know. Two things that they had that we did not have. We don't have, that we have today. We don't have. Okay. We don't have a talking snake today, which they had then. But there is something that they did not have, which we have today. Other people. Three things. Three things. The list keeps getting added on. Clothes. Four things. I did not think this question through.
Oh, knowledge. They weren't enlightened.
Friends. Close, very close. So she said they were not enlightened. Now the Bible, the Torah says it like that they were not Yode'eh Tov V'Ra, they did not know the difference between good or bad, which does not mean that they really didn't know between bad and good. It means that they were missing an intrinsic part of humankind, which we have today, they did not have then. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to give the answer so you don't have to keep guessing. Shoes! Prada! They didn't have Prada. It is true. They did not have Prada. We do have Prada today. Thank God for that. Rolls Royces didn't have, thank God. We are so much better off today. What I'm trying to say is Adam Arishon and his wife Eve did not have what in Hebrew we call the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. They didn't have the Yetzer that we have, the subconscious that we have to constantly be battling with. They didn't have it. It was not internal at the time. What we have now, it's internal. It's within us. When you wake up in the morning, you want to go to school and you want to do something good and something tells you like, go back to sleep. It's so good here. That's your evil inclination trying to make you lousy, lazy, good for nothing. But it feels good though. But that's your evil inclination. Everybody has it. Everyone has to deal with it all the time. I actually have a really cool story about it. Everyone here knows the Chafetz Chaim? The Chafetz Chaim was a very, 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 very great scholar in his time. Over 100 years ago, he lived in Europe. The Chafetz Chaim once, he tells this story himself. He wakes up in the morning. This is in the cold winters of winter. in Europe. He wakes up in the morning, obviously morning for us, 6:30 a.m. We're like, oh, we're so early, His morning was probably 3 o'clock in the morning, probably. And probably went to bed like an hour before it. That's how these people lived. He wakes up and he hears the voice in his head telling him, go back to sleep, You're such a great scholar. You're so well known. Everyone knows. And you're so old already. No one's going to expect you to be the first one anymore in shul. Take another half hour, right? You're old. No one has that high expectations of you anymore. This is what he says. He, in his mind, answers his own Yetzer Hara in this way. He says, well, let's see. Who's older, me or you? You've been around for what? 5,000 something years? I think you should go to bed. You must be tired. I'm going to get up and go to shul now, right? So we have this in our minds. We don't constantly think of, oh my God, it's my evil inclination. We don't constantly think of it that way, but that's what it is. We're battling it all the time. It's within us. Adam didn't have it within him. It was on the outside in the form of the snake, like you said. At the time, the evil inclination was something of an external source. It was external completely. It wasn't a part of a person's subconscious. It was something that was roaming the earth, that God put onto the earth to kind of affect humankind's decision making and humankind's decision. And I must say, I have to give credit where credit's due, it was highly successful. Highly, highly successful. We're here today with all the problems in the world because of the success of that first, inclination, the push of the Yetzer Hara towards that, the tree of knowledge. That's why we're here still today. It was successful, yet it was on the outside. Keep that in mind. It wasn't from within, it was an external source. Next, we go to a story that some of us might not be so familiar with. Jethro. Yitro was the nephew of Abraham Avinu's nephew. Yitro lived in, thank you, Lot. I said Yitro. Yeah, rabbis. Lot being, correct me again and I'll throw something at you. Just Abraham's nephew was Lot. Lot lived in the city of Sodom, like Sodom and Gomorrah, when they call when someone wants to talk about destruction, it's like Sodom, that's not. So he lived in Sodom. When God wanted to destroy Sodom, he told Abraham, his uncle, that he is going to destroy Sodom, but he will save Lot and his family from Sodom. And the Torah says that God saved Lot from Sodom because of Abraham. What does that tell you? Abraham was saved because he was a righteous person. He used to help people. He had a tent with 4 doors, welcoming guests all the time, helping people in the worst conditions ever. Didn't ask what their religion was, didn't ask them what color they were. It didn't matter to Abraham. Abraham just did good, period. Chesed. That's why Abraham in Judaism, in mystics, is called the pillar of chesed, the pillar of kindness. So he was saved because he was good. When it comes to Lot, it says Lot was saved for Abraham because of Abraham. Now let's see. What did Lot do? Let's try to analyze what Lot did in his life. You know what Lot did? Lot lived in Sodom. Very, very corrupt place. It was as corrupt as it comes. What state can you think of that's very corrupt?
State. Oh, sorry.
A corrupt state. Let's not call out states. I don't want to get calls like, who said our state is a really bad, corrupt place. Think of as Sodom was worse than that. Sodom was even worse, and I'll explain to you. They had rules. Sodom had rules and regulations, one of which was you're not allowed to have any guests. We don't want visitors. We don't like visitors. We don't want them. We don't want to treat them well. You have visitors, we don't want you to have visitors. So they did not allow anyone to have any guests over their home. If they did, it was actually almost pretty much punishable by death. What did Lot do in Sodom? He secretly would have guests and help people. In the worst conditions possible, he was helping people. You see it from the story where when the angels in the Torah, when the angels go to save Lot, Lot doesn't know that they're angels. So he secretly invites them in and washes their feet, and he's trying to give them food, and they're there to save him, right? And then the city people find out about it. They're breaking down his door. He says, please, oh please don't, I'll give you anything you want. Don't hurt my guests, I'm sorry. It was a really bad place. Abraham would invite guests into his home in his own place with no regulations against having guests. Yet Abraham gets the title of being saved, gets the pleasure of being saved for his own zechut, so to speak, in his own merit. Lot does not get that. Lot only gets saved for the merit of Abraham. Why? Lot is doing such a much harder job. He's literally going in the middle of all the filth, and he's doing good. So why you treating him like that? Why you doing him like that? It ain't cool. I'm not questioning God forbid, but I'm just saying if I was, that's how I would do it. Be like, 3. Noah. Everybody knows the story of Noah, right? Noah and the ark and all the animals and humankind that was saved because of Noah. By the way, if you ever want to think about how we know the story of Noah is true, what evidence? There's no proof for anything, by the way. That's a discussion for another time. There's enough evidence for things. Everything we do in our lives, anything that is proven to us is through evidence, enough evidence. Noah's evidence, the fact that the flood of Noah happened, the evidence is very simple. How many cultures do you know that have a Noah story? Many cultures. Think of any religion, they all have a Noah story. Most cultures have a Noah story one way or another about a flood, That's how you know most probably happened. Or else so many people would not have the same exact story from God knows different places in the world. And I'm talking about before internet, right? Before internet, before research, a lot of different cultures had a Noah story. There's a lot of other stories that are biblical that they have also, but Noah's one of them, right? So Noah's flood happened. Why? The Torah says, I went to Ashkenazi yeshiva. Got a problem? There. 1. Noah had to choose different animals coupled up, or some 7 of each, and bring them into the teva, bring them into the boat, ship, ark, whatever you want to call it. That tells us that the animals were also killed. Lots of animals. By the way, there were species that were wiped out. We don't know exactly what species were wiped out, but not all the species of animals survived. There were some species that only lived the time of Noah, up until the time of Noah, after which they didn't survive because God did not command Noah to take those into the boat for whatever reason. So what the species that we have now, millions of which we have now, they were saved by Noah, right? Trees that we have now, seeds from Noah's time, right? Which he had to. So not all the animals made it. And even the ones that did make it, he only took a couple of each of the kosher ones and more of the non-kosher animals, right? He didn't take all the animals in. So there was God knows how many animals that didn't make it. Why did the animals get killed during Noah's time? What did the animals do? Time of Noah, the Torah says that the world had gone, it was horrific. Things were going really bad. People were really bad on earth. Things were just not good. And God said, you know what? I got to start over. That's it. I'm done. You know what? I give up. I'm just going to start all over again, repaint the whole world with a different color. What did the animals do? Ever thought of that? Why were the animals killed? I want to see a show of hands. How many of you actually pondered this question? 1. 2, she's kind of like, I might have in my sleep, so I don't know, so I'm just going to go halfway. Yeah, But it's a valid question, right? If the world was being punished for the way it was, what does that have to do with the animals? Do the animals have free will? Answer this one, please. You answer this one. Do the animals have free will? Giving you a chance to. I said I'll throw something if you correct me. You haven't yet. The animals don't have free will. Human beings do have free will. Animals don't. So why did the animals get punished? All right, keep that in mind. Horses. I love horses. Don't you love horses? Horses are beautiful, gorgeous animals. Those of you that said no, you're going to have animal activists going to attack you. You're going to be like, horses. What happened to horses? In the time of Moses, when Moses was bringing the Jews out of Egypt, Torah says clearly the ocean opened up and the Jews went through the ocean, crossed over, or didn't cross over, they actually made a U-E. If you want to know exactly what really happened, we didn't cross the ocean. We actually went in and we came out the same way. It was like a U-turn. It was only so that the Egyptians will follow and then the ocean opens, like closes on top of them and we make it out. Yeah. That's when God dropped the mic. Boom. Hey, that's actually what happened. But the Torah says explicitly, Kol sus rechev paro. All the horses of Paro and the Egyptians also died in the ocean. What question am I going to ask now? Why the horses? Why you got to kill the horses? What happened? Not only the horses died, it's actually mentioned. The Torah never mentions something just because it wants to give you like a sense of like, open up your imagination. Like, here's how it happened so you could make the movie well. It's not. Every word is accounted for. So why did the Torah actually have to mention the horses died too? People died and the horses died too in the ocean. Good question? I think it's a good question. Sarah, is it a good question? Staff thinks it's a good question. It's a good question. I rest my case. I'm going to go home now, actually, because if she approves of my lectures, done. I could sleep at night. I want to tell you a story. There was a rabbi by the name of Rav Aaron Cutler. The Rav Aaron Cutler, in many ways, is known as the Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva. He was just the head of one yeshiva, really. But Rav Aaron Cutler was responsible, possibly one of the most responsible people for bringing Torah Jewry into Europe and the United States of America. The fact that the United States of America has a world of Jewry today like it is today, one person that was responsible for it was Rabbi Aaron Cutler, who was the teacher of the teachers that brought Judaism into America at a time where there was nothing here. You had the Holocaust happening in Europe and everyone was escaping. So many of the Jews came to the United States of America, you had to have a Jewish home. And he was responsible for that. Rav Aaron Cutler used to travel. And on one such travels, he found himself kind of not lost, but he had a stop that was not planned. He used to go by ship. And he found himself on a Friday afternoon, early afternoon, in a city that he had no idea if any Jews live in. He was just in the middle of nowhere and he had to find himself somewhere for Shabbat. He didn't know anyone in that city. He didn't even know if any Jews live in that city, right? So he starts to walk around in this little village, little city, and he wants to know. So he starts asking around. Do you guys know any Jews here? Are there any Jews that live here? Yada, yada. Finally, someone tells him, there's a couple of Jews. There's one Jew here if you need, and he gives him the directions to go to the home. He goes to the home of the Jew. Now, he had a dilemma. It's not only finding the Jew, it's also finding a Jew that will host him. And number 3 is finding a Jew that will host him that has kosher food available. It's a kosher Jew. You can't eat at just anybody's house. He has to make sure that the guy's got the RCC and the OU and the OK and all those things marked, So he knocks on the door, and the Jewish guy opens up, and he's very welcoming. Hello, welcome, stranger. It's nice to have you, and so on and so forth. And he tells him, listen, I got lost. I'm kind of stuck in this town. I really need a place for the Sabbath, and I was wondering if I could stay by you, but I do have some, kosher restrictions. I wanted to know if you could help me out. The guy says, listen, I would love to host you. I would love to, anybody that comes through this town, I would love to have you. But I got to tell you, I'm treif. I don't serve anything kosher. Everything in my home is treif, right? So I don't know what to tell you. You could stay here, you could join me, but I don't know what I'm going to feed you. And my home is completely non-kosher, and I'm not Sabbath observant. So Rav Aaron says, I'm sorry, do you know any other Jews in this town that are observant and have kosher food that I could be with? He laughs and he says, yes, but he ain't going to have you. He says, what do you mean? He says, yeah, I know another Jew, but he doesn't have guests. He goes, I'm sure he's like, no, you don't understand. He will not invite you in. He's a kosher Jew, he's a religious Jew, but he hates having people over his home. He's not going to have you. He says, but I still want to try. I want to go. I thought maybe the guy's like a little over dramatic here. So he shows him where the other guy's house is, and he knocks on the door, and, a Jew with religious garb and a kippah and a hat, opens the door. He goes, hello, my fellow man. How are you? How are you? Welcome to our city. What can I help you with? He says, I'm kind of stuck in the middle of the city, and it's almost Sabbath. I was wondering if I could, possibly spend Shabbat with you. He says, no, you absolutely cannot. You have a nice day now. And he shuts the door in his face. Rav Aaron was not at all not used to this kind of attitude. So what does he do? What any Jew would do. Knock again. So he knocks again, and he says, may I help you? He says, listen, I'm really stuck here. It's almost Shabbat. In a couple of hours, I don't know where else to go. Are there any other Jews? He says, no. He says, I've been told you're the only kosher Jew here, and I really need to spend Shabbat here. He says, no means no, man. I don't have guests. I don't want you to come into my house. I don't want to have anything to do with you. Go on your way. Shuts the door again. Rav Aaron is getting very agitated. Why? Because first, he doesn't understand what's with this guy. Number two, right? It's Shabbat. And what is he going to do for Shabbat? He's going to be stranded in the middle of nowhere in a city, no food, nothing. He doesn't know anyone. We should never know this, but we have it really easy. You think you guys have it hard? Oh my God, I have to find a Chabad house now. What am I going to do? It's like, it's a click away. You have 15 applications where we'll show. I have an application on my phone. It's called Kosher GPS. Anywhere I am, I just go on it, and I just click the application, boom. All the restaurants nearby that serve kosher food open up for me within the mileage with GPS. All the shuls with minyanim open up for me. Like you got this one going on here. You got 3:45 mincha here. You got a 4:45 mincha over there. It's unbelievable. People, huh? Yeah, get the app. It's really good. Kosher GPS. They didn't have these things those days. They were stranded. That's all it was. They were stranded. They had nothing to do. They had nowhere to go. So he knocks on the door again, and this time he gets really upset. He says, don't you dare shut the door on me again. I don't understand what your deal is, but what you're doing is wrong. Do you know who I am? And this part here, Rav Aaron Kotler did not like to do. There's no rabbi, no mensch, no tzaddik, no righteous person in his caliber does such a thing. It's actually brought in the Gemara that the Chachamim never like to bring up their name to get credits for it, because it takes away from their zechuyot, it takes away from their merits. Like you're using your name to get out, So he says, I'm Rav Aaron Kotler. I'm the Rosh Yeshiva of so-and-so yeshiva. He says, I'm sorry, I've never heard of you. Right? But you're saying you're a Rosh Yeshiva. He says, yes, I'm a Rosh Yeshiva, and I don't understand why you're treating me this way. He says, if you're a Rosh Yeshiva, please come on in, but I'd like to test you to actually see if you are a Rosh Yeshiva or not. Okay? Before I Google your name. So he sits down with the guy, and Rav Aaron Kotler himself says, I sat through, and he gave me 4 or 5 questions he asked. It says, and one was more difficult than the other. I mean, this guy really had me. I was hanging by a thread of being thrown out of this guy's house. He's asking me the most difficult questions. He's like, I think it was 5, I think. 4 of them I answered as much as I could. The 5th one, he's like, it was a miracle that I knew the answer of this. Only because the week before, by accident, I found it somewhere and I was reading something and I found this answer. If God hadn't shown me this answer the week before, I had no clue about it. There was no way I could have answered. I would be on the streets for Shabbat. So I answered the question. He gets up, he goes, my fellow man, you are more than welcome to stay with me for Shabbat. It's like, I didn't ask no questions, nothing. It was too late. I just got ready for Shabbat. I spent a Shabbat in learning Torah and study and being with this person. And it was amazing, right? But in my heart, I was really like puzzled. What's with this guy? Like, why did he take me through all of this? What's going on? You almost want to, if I honestly, if I was there, I would like try to open some closets to see what he's got hiding over there. You know, I don't know. I was reading this story. I was like, he probably has something in his backyard. He's digging people. I don't know what he's doing. But that's not what the story is. He says, Rav Aaron says, I waited until Shabbat was over for me to bring it up. I didn't want to bring up any ill feelings if there was anything. So I waited. Shabbat was over and I asked him, yo, listen. He didn't ask him like that. Rav Aaron didn't say, yo. Okay. Said, excuse me, my fellow man, what's your deal? What was this whole ordeal you took me through, threw me out, and you made me have to like tell you who I am? He says, allow me to show you. Takes out a book of the Maimonides, Rambam, the Maimonides, which is the book of law that we go by, most of the laws that we follow. Brings out the Rambam and he reads inside. The Rambam says, a Jew is never allowed to associate himself with bad influences in life. Especially if you're a Jew that is working on yourself to better yourself, you should never sit, talk, walk, be in places of bad influences. It is asur to be, it is not allowed for you to be around such people. Period. Very explicit. Says, as you see, I'm in this town, and as you saw outside, I mean, there's not that many Jews here. Quite few. I have to be here because of, he had to be there because of health issues, for the weather or whatever it was. He's like, the fact that he had to be there was hard enough for him already. But he made a pact that I don't have to associate myself with the people that are around me. I don't want them to affect me. Therefore, I made a rule. I don't have anyone over my house. I don't care where they come from. I don't want them in my house. I don't want their influence. And if you tell me that I'm wrong, I'm following the Rambam. I'm following the Maimonides. This is his rule. I didn't make up the rules. This is his. This is halacha that everybody follows, or everyone should follow. She says, then the reason I tested you, because many people get stranded here and they go, I'm a rabbi. You know, I was ordained in I took a 6-month course. Many people call themselves rabbi and chachamim. I had to actually see if you're actually a rav. Rav Aaron Kotler says, it was the most enjoyable Shabbat I've had, especially after I discovered who this person was and why he acted that way. Because he was right. Every Jew is responsible for their own domain. Every Jew is responsible for their own surroundings. You have the right to refuse to be influenced by your surroundings. That is your right. If there is anything that is called a right in our religion, that's one of them. That's our right. We should not be influenced by outside sources. Let's go back. Adam, in his time, did not have an internal influence. He had an outside influence. And through listening to that outside negative influence that he had, the Yetzirah that was outside, he caused all of mankind to suffer through all these generations because now we had it internally. Now we have to deal with this evil inclination all the time within us. How did it all start? By Adam HaRishon, by Adam actually interacting with this outside serpent, this outside evil, negative influence that was on him. Lot. Everyone has this question. Why was Lot not freed from Sodom, not rescued from Sodom for his own good deeds? You know why? Lot, nobody told you to go live in Sodom. There is no reason, unless for health reasons, for you to get up, move away from such an amazing influence that you had, which was Abraham. His uncle raised him. You had Abraham as an uncle, such a positive influence. You got up and you went and lived in the middle of Sodom. Why? You were raised in Jerusalem, and you all of a sudden decided you're going to go live in Southern California? Why? What reason did you have? So the fact that you decided to be around all this negative influences, it affects you. And for that reason, God said, you know what? You don't deserve to be saved. The only reason I'll save you is because of Abraham, because he's your uncle. If it wasn't because of him, you would be just as dead as everyone in Sodom. Why? Because you involved yourselves with them. There is no reason for a person to involve themselves and be around negative influences. The Torah doesn't want that. I don't care if you're trying to save lives. God says, I'll save lives. I don't want you to go in the middle of God knows where and say, I wanted to be a goody two-shoe and save lives, so I brought my entire family in the middle of God knows what, hell on earth. You don't have to do that. And you can't say, I want credit for it. You shouldn't put yourself in dangerous, bad situations and say, I did it for the good reason. I did it for the right reasons. It's like I always give the example of, you want to, God forbid, there is a big fire and you want to save a child from inside a burning house. God forbid. You run inside the burning house and you bring the child out, you're a hero, but you're definitely going to have burn marks. You can't turn around and go, why, God? I was doing such a great thing. I saved a life. Why would I get burnt? Like, what do you mean? You walked into a flaming house. You did a great thing. Great. But it's inevitable. You're going to get burnt. That's just the natural reaction to your actions. It's just an outcome. Lot's outcome was, you're in the middle of God knows where. I don't want to have anything to do with those people. You involved yourself with them. You brought yourself down. That's Lot. Noah's time. All the animals that died, the Torah says, the mystics bring this picture in where the animals died not because they were innocent. In fact, the Mefarshim, the commentators say that even the animals were doing things that human beings were doing. No human being was walking over to an animal going, hey, dog, steal that dog's food. Go ahead, do it. No one was doing that. But there was so much theft going on. Animals were stealing each other's food. Animals were stealing other animals' mates. That's what the Mefarshim say. That's what was happening. Why? No human being was going around and going, you do it too, you do it. I got my cat to eat another cat. No one was making anyone do any of the animals doing anything. But there were the effects of the negative energy around them affected the animals. Even the animals. It was so bad that God had to literally wipe everything out, even the animals, because they had gone bad. Only save a few just for the survival of that breed. That's it. Even animals got influenced by it. So much so that the mystics also say few inches of the earth was also erased away. That's going very much into depth, but Kabbalistically, that's what happened. Some of the earth was also erased during the flood of Noah, because even the earth itself had gone, there was so much negative energy, it literally had to be cleansed, had to be scratched off. Was anyone actually going to the Mother Earth and saying, I want you to be bad, do this bad? No, it wasn't. Because when there's so much negativity going around, everything gets affected. I'll answer questions in a few minutes. Horses in the Yam Suf. Horses in the ocean when the Jews crossed over. Why did the horses get killed? Why did they have to be punished? And why did the Torah actually have to explicitly write it down? For us to know, yeah, horses did not have any free will in enslaving the Jews or chasing the Jews when they were in the desert. They were being ordered around by the Egyptians. But it's the example I gave you. You run into a flaming building, you are bound to get burnt. Things around the negativity get affected, even the animals. Yes, they might have been innocent, but they were involved in something negative that was going on. It's the Torah's way, it's God's way of showing us that's how the world works. You don't want to be involved in it, don't be around it. However, in our society today, right, we've kind of taken the notion of live and let live, or whatever they call it. Let people do whatever they want. As long as I'm not doing it, it's fine. Why should I stop anyone from doing what they want? Who am I to say what people do or what people don't? Who am I to vote against what people want to do? Right? I'm not doing it. My family's not doing it. Oh, Rabbi, I don't believe in it at all. I just don't believe that I should stop people that want to do such things. Even though I believe it's very, very wrong, I don't believe I should be the one to tell them to stop. Why should I? Well, here's why you should care. Everything goes on around you affects you, whether you like it or not. If you're lucky, it won't have a direct effect on you, maybe because you're mature enough when it happens, or when it's happening around you, you were already over that plateau at that age. For whatever reason, you were lucky enough that it didn't completely affect you, which doesn't happen. It will affect you. It definitely, if it doesn't affect you, God forbid it's going to affect your next generations, next of kin, children's children. Everybody has to live in the same Mother Earth, on Earth. Everyone has to live on the same Earth. It's the same world. We all share it. So you can't walk around saying, listen. They want to smoke, let them smoke. I'm not smoking. Who am I to say don't smoke around me? Well, try smoking on the beach today. Have you gone to any of the LA beaches? Take a cigarette on an LA beach and wait for the cop to come, because you will get a ticket. It's on the beach, not in a bar. Open air, as open as it gets. It's the ocean. Try smoking on the beach. Why? People don't like smoke. She'll get ticketed for it. I watched the funniest thing. This woman is suing their neighbors because they barbecue a lot, and she's a vegan. I don't make this stuff up. I wish I would be a genius if I would make this stuff up. But I'm not. It's just funny. I'm a vegan. I get offended by you eating meat. Stop eating meat all the time. Eat something else. Barbecue something else on your grill. It makes me sick. Right? Whatever. But it bothers her. The smoke bothers her. But I'm just saying, I'm just saying as an example. I don't know if she won or not. I hope not, or we're all doomed. Okay? Things do affect you. You might not notice it because it's very slow. But if you really go back to your ideologies, maybe before, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you'll realize that a lot of your ideas in your mind and your ideology and your belief system has kind of changed even just a little bit. Where there were things that bothered you, and today you don't really mind them, or you just don't care. But even that just says that you've been affected. That Yetzer Hara is there. That negative energy is there. So we cannot walk around on this earth thinking to ourselves, who cares what people do? Let them do it. Idiots. I don't believe in this stuff. I'm a this or I'm a that. None of this stuff bothers me. Let them do it. Who am I to tell them not to do it? I've had that said to me so many times. I've had people be like, but seriously, who cares? Who are we? We're such a small number. Why? Why should we stop people from doing what they feel is right for them to do? Or if it's wrong, I go, do you believe it's wrong? Yes. 100%? Absolutely. It's wrong. It can't get no wronger. It's very wrong. But I still believe people should do what they want. Really? I really don't think that's how the world should be. Because you can't drive your car without wearing a seatbelt. Call it a few country, right? Try driving without a seatbelt. And a cop pulls you over and you say, yeah, I know you care for my safety. I don't. I'm done. So thank you for stopping me, but I'm okay. Seriously. Really. I am. Cop's going to be like, sorry. Still going to get a ticket. Yeah, but you don't understand. You don't understand what I go through. I go to UCLA and it's really hard there. Okay? And all these Persians are driving me crazy. You'll still get a ticket because there are certain things that are not just about you. Actually, everything. It's not just about you. Hospitals get flooded. It's just a domino effect of other people getting affected because one person was stupid enough not to wear a seatbelt. It's just the way it is. It's the way the world works. Now you'll say to yourself, come on, seriously? But yeah, no, seriously. That's how these things work. That's just the way the world works. But when it comes to really, really impactful things, it's as if everyone just shuts off their minds. They're like, that doesn't affect me. Why would it affect me? Until it actually affects you and you're like, oh God, look at what's happening. A lot of these things happen in our societies because we simply don't care. We close our eyes to it. We put our heads in the sand like an ostrich. And we decide to say, I don't know what's going on.
So then, what do you do in that situation? What do you do in that scenario?
Good. See, that's a very good question. So what do you do? What are you supposed to do? Number one is, even if you're not able to do anything about it, let's say it's not even up to you, right? You have to be adamant about your decision, about what you feel about this decision, and then let's say it's something wrong that's happening. You need to talk about it. You need to voice your passion about why you feel it's wrong and learn about it so that you could tell other people. You shouldn't step down easily and be like, well, yeah, this is where we live now and this is how it is now and you just have to shut your mouth and no, it's all of our society. We all live in this society. We have to be able to voice our beliefs and say, I believe this is wrong. It's wrong. And if there is a vote, we should also be there to vote for it and say yes or no, whether it's something wrong happening or something right happening. It has to be. But number one is our mentality. Your mentality cannot change. Mentality has to stay. When something is wrong, it's wrong. Period. You can't just take it and be like, well, it's like I remember when all this terrorist activity was going on. I'm going to say terrorist activity was going on, right? Some people were like, you call them terrorists. To them, they're freedom fighters. No. They're terrorists. Don't water it down. Don't sugarcoat it. They're terrorists. People that blow themselves up to kill civilians are terrorists. There is no excuse for killing women, children, and men, civilians. There is none. I don't care what you're fighting for. You are a bad, evil person. And I'm going to say it enough times until it penetrates. If you kill innocent people, bystanders, women, children, for whatever goal you might have in mind, you are evil, period. And I mean evil in all terms and purposes. It's evil. Don't sugarcoat it and be like, well, in your language it might be evil, in others it might be okay. No. In no language is it okay. It's not. But that's what's happening in society. Little by little, they stop calling them that. Terrorists start getting called freedom fighters or different believers, or I don't know what names they'll make for it to be more correct, non-offensive. It's it's like saying, the worst dictator in the world, I don't want to offend them, so I won't name them. It's like, no, they were evil, they killed millions of people, you can name them, it's okay. We have to be able to do that. We have to come to terms with ourselves and really understand and really make the idea sit right with ourselves. Don't be afraid of standing for emet, truth. The Torah starts with the word emet. Bereshit, bara, Elokim. The last letters of the first words of the Torah spell out emet. Bereshit is taf, bara is aleph, and Elokim is mem. If you switch around, it's emet. The world needs emet, and there's a whole discussion of why it was switched. That's for another time. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, Bezrat Hashem, we should all be able to always be able to see the truth, see the emet, feel the emet, and not be influenced by these outside sources, and try to always keep our eye on the ball, like we say, and Stay true Jews, whether observant or non-observant, it doesn't matter. But you have to have the right mentality about life, about what's good and what's not. It has to be that simple. Yes, some places there are some gray areas, but believe it or not, most places when it comes to good and evil, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. And we just have to stay clear of that. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.